Hi, it's Jack from My Social Practice. How are you? It's a Wednesday, September 20th, 2017, and welcome to our webinar today. Let me share my screen real quick, and we'll get started right now. All right, find the right place here. All right. So again, welcome to our webinar today, Prioritizing Your Social Media Marketing Efforts. My name is Jack Hadley with My Social Practice, and we're glad you're here. Many of you have been following our content for a long time, and we hope today is some useful information that will help you in your social media marketing and in making the most use of your time. Just by way of introduction, because I know we have many new listeners and followers, I'm a social media marketing professor. I teach social media marketing at the Marriott School of Management at Brigham Young University here in Provo, Utah, where I live. I'm also a founding partner at My Social Practice. We're an agency that provides social media marketing content, strategy, and support to dental practices around the world. Just by way of introduction. Today, a couple of things I want to tell you before we get started. First of all, if you have a question or a comment, feel free to use the live chat function here on the page. I have a couple of people helping me today, a couple of team members that are available to answer questions. So while we are broadcasting, if you have a comment or a question, please feel free to do that, and we'll answer those questions as best as our team can. If it's something that you want to direct to my attention directly, send me an email, jack@mysocialpractice.com. One of the things that kind of the call to action today, one of the things we really want you to do at the end of this webinar is today, September 20th, we're releasing a brand new ebook that we just wrote entitled Build Your Dental Digital Marketing in Minutes a Day. And many of the things that we're going to talk about today are included in this ebook. So I recommend to you and encourage you to download that ebook at the end of our visit today. Also, I will be referencing some other things today that we will include as links below. So below the video here, you'll see there's a space with some links that we've put there that correspond with some of the things that I'll be talking about today. One of the things to really keep in mind is, social media content lives on forever. So you may not be watching this live on September 20th, 2017. You might be watching it in 2018 or 2019. So remember that our perspective today is about the tools today and what's working today, what's not working today, and that's going to obviously change. So the important thing to remember today isn't that to be specific about tools. Always the most important thing to remember is the mindset. How are you thinking about using social media to grow your practice? What's the thinking behind it? Because then tools can come and go, and this content will be relevant and applicable no matter when you watch it or no matter what the tools are in the future. So please keep that in mind as we're visiting today. Many times I'll have a dental professional come up to me and say, gosh, I wish we could do social media like you guys do at My Social Practice. Like you're everywhere. You're doing all this stuff and all these platforms. You generate all this content. Well, remember, we have a big team of people to do that. And of course, that's all we do is social media marketing. So I don't want you to think that that's what you need to do. The goal, and I'm afraid sometimes dental professionals and doctors get confused that you need to do it the way we do it. And that's not the case. We try to take everything that we know about social media marketing that we're learning every day and distill it down to what works well in a dental practice. So that's what we're going to kind of talk about today. One of the things that I've noticed is when I'm around the country visiting practices and speaking, most practices are really willing and able and want to do well with social media. And they're willing to try things and do new things and be effective. It always seems to come down to not having enough time. And when you make the time, making the time consistently making the time. So today, what I want to do is by visiting today, I want to relieve some of the stress on you. I want you to stop having to feel stressed out about not doing enough. So that's an important part of my visit with you today. I also don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I'm going to try to break this down into some really simple kind of ways to think about this and some ways to execute it so you're not always feeling overwhelmed. And number three, I want you to stop feeling guilty that you're not doing enough. This works if you do it in baby steps. It's just about being consistent and finding a little bit of time each day. So that's kind of what we're going to do today. We're going to kind of break this down into some things I think you must be doing, and then some things that you should do or you could do when you have more time and when you're able to master some of the basic things. So no more guilt, no more feeling overwhelmed, and no more feeling bad about not doing enough. And then at the end, toward the end of our visit today, I want you to stay tuned through the whole thing, because toward the end, I'm going to give you the secret to making your effectiveness with your social media marketing super, super simple. I'm going to distill it down into one idea at the end. And so working with lots of practices for a long, long time, our team knows what works and what doesn't. So stay tuned for the secret at the end. To get started, we're going to break this down into some musts, some shoulds, and some coulds. So we've listed a number of platforms that many of our clients are using, many practices are using successfully. But keep in mind that the vast majority of our dental practices do really, really well when they just focus very narrow on just a couple of things. And so that's where I want to start. I want to start by talking about what I call the musts. In addition to talking about the musts, I want you to really keep in mind that there are sort of three tiers. No matter what you're doing, if you're talking about Facebook, talking about any other platform, there's kind of this idea of good, better, best. You don't have to be amazing every single day. In fact, some days, if you only have 5 minutes to do something, just do something that's effective, but it may not be the best thing in the world, but it'll be good. And then some days you have more than 5 or 10 minutes, you can do something a little better. And some days when you can carve out 20 minutes or more and do something really amazing, then you're going for the best. But it's okay to mix good, better, and best. We're not doing our very best stuff every single day. So don't feel guilty about that. Just think about it that way and try to have more days where you're doing ideas that really are the best and the most effective. So let's take this little wheel, and I want to break down first into the musts. And I have included 5 of these that I believe are the musts. And we're not going to talk in detail about these. I'm going to go through them real quick because I want to talk more about just trying to decide how to allocate your time. So as you know, Facebook is the 800-pound marketing gorilla in dental marketing. And so it's important. It's the most important platform to be on. We're not going to talk about it today because we've done a lot of other webinars and a lot of other content about Facebook. But the ebook that we published today that you're going to download at the end has a few basics in there, some pages that are just about mastering Facebook. So if you're not familiar, if you're brand new to this whole thing, and this is like the first time you've even thought about it or the first webinar that you've watched from my social practice, use the first part of the ebook to really get the basics down with Facebook. The second thing that I believe is a must is getting great reviews. Reviews is such a huge part of social media marketing today, and I know you probably already know that. And many of you are doing really good at getting reviews, and many of you are not doing well with getting reviews. So the second part of this ebook has to do with getting reviews and how to sort of manage your reputation. So important that you download the ebook and spend a few minutes reading these first 2 sections about Facebook and about getting reviews, because we're not going to talk about those today. Number 3, email. And you probably think to yourself, well, why is email a must in a webinar about social media marketing? Email is still very effective. And you might say, well, my patients don't want to get email. Well, I've heard that a lot. And it's because you've been sending them really lousy stuff for a long, long time. So stop sending them lousy stuff and send stuff that's effective in moving your objectives forward to grow your business. And people will actually appreciate good email. So part of this, let me show you just one quick example, and then I'll show you the third part of this ebook you're going to download. I often talk about this example. You know, Facebook has created this pay gate between you and your patients. that are on Facebook, or your fans on Facebook. You have to kind of pay to play. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But email can be a great kind of end run around Facebook's pay gate. We have lots of practices doing a really good job of this. And this is an example that I often show. North Shore Center, a dental practice, had one of their team members, Lynette, who is retiring. They had a little party. They took a lot of photos. They created an email to send out to their entire patient base, kind of announcing Lynette's retirement and encouraging them to go say goodbye and to say hello and to express their appreciation for Lynette. Now, prior to sending this email, we had them publish all that content on Facebook. And as you know, on Facebook, when you publish content, Facebook creates a unique URL. That is a place that on the World Wide Web where only this content resides. It's a big, long number. You don't want to try to type it in or copy it, but you can select it and copy it on the computer. You don't want to try to handwrite it or anything, but you can copy it on the computer. And then before you send out this email, you can hyperlink that URL from your email right to the Facebook page. So what you're doing is you're sending out an email, and lots of practices get great open rates on email. Maybe they'll get 30, 40% open rate. So if you have 2,000 patients and you get a 40% open rate, 500 people open the email, and many of them know Lynette, they'll click on the hyperlink and it'll drop them right into Facebook. So cultivate your email list. I think it's an important must, and it's integrated into effective social media marketing. The third section of this ebook that we're releasing today talks about email and gives you some specifics about MailChimp and some other tools. Our publishing platform that our clients use has a powerful tool for email as well. But just read that and make sure that you start thinking about email as part of your social media strategy. Number 4, YouTube. Now, YouTube has, if we're going to talk about search engine optimization, obviously you know that YouTube is the second largest search platform in the world next to Google. And so it's a big deal in terms of search. I'm not here to talk about the SEO of using YouTube. We could talk about that another time, and it is an important thing. But the reason I wanted to bring it up as a must is because I think you really have to have a channel set up. And it's not hard to set that channel up. And part of the reason is you have to have a place for your content to reside. Some of the content you'll upload directly to Facebook, but some of the content may make more sense to upload it and have it hosted or residing on YouTube. I don't know if many of you may have seen our webinar last month, Utilizing Video. In that webinar, we talk a lot about the different kinds of video content. And if you are generating video, you've got to have a place to put it. And Facebook is often a good place to put it, to put the original content, the original videos, but sometimes it's better to put it on YouTube. So make sure that you have a YouTube channel in place. Not hard to do, and I really consider it one of the musts. And then finally, number 5, a website. That's probably a given. We're not here to talk about websites today, but having a good website is an important part of this integration and an important part of this strategy. I think the role of websites has dramatically changed. I don't think websites are the same thing as they used to be. I think a lot of dental marketing professionals are talking about them in the ways we talked about websites a decade ago or 5 years ago. So I have some strong opinions about websites and how they integrate and how they're about their effectiveness. But we're not here to talk about that today. But it is a must, and so I've included it in the musts. All right, so those are the 5 things that I think in this little wheel are really the things that are most important that you must be doing. Let's talk about the shoulds. There's 3 of them that I've listed. These are things that I think you should do if you can get to them. If you've kind of mastered that first tier and have those 5 things in place that I just mentioned, and you're starting to become effective on Facebook, there are a couple other things that I consider shoulds. One of them is LinkedIn. Many practices and many doctors do not understand how LinkedIn has changed. They still think it's a platform for college students to find jobs or something. Well, it's not. It's a very powerful place for a dental practice to be in, for a dentist to be. We have done a number of training videos about LinkedIn. We're going to put the link in down below. In fact, it may already be down there. That you can click through and watch these LinkedIn training videos that we've done, how we talk about LinkedIn. There's a lot of practices doing really effective things with both their personal LinkedIn profiles and their business pages, and the way that those integrate together. This is not hard to do. In many cases, there may be a doctor that doesn't want to get involved with social media. He or she is delegating all of that to a team member, but they can be involved maybe personally on LinkedIn and build out their LinkedIn profile. It's a great way to connect with other people in the community in which you live. So take a few minutes if you're interested in LinkedIn, and I think you should be. Take a little bit of time and learn a little bit more about LinkedIn. And one really good way is to kind of watch that little series of videos that the link is below on this page. The second should, I think, is Instagram. Instagram is becoming a big deal. And I think it's funny, a lot of dental professionals are thinking, well, I'm going to just work on Instagram. I'm going to kind of not work so much on Facebook because lots of people are, Instagram's the big buzz. Well, I caution you in doing that. I think you first need to get really good at using Facebook. And then once you are good at that, Instagram is a good companion to that. As you know, Instagram's owned by Facebook, and they work much in the same way, and they're kind of merging in many ways, especially when it comes to the pay-to-play model. But Instagram can be a great place, and we have a lot of practices doing really well with with Instagram. So there's also a link below to some Instagram videos that we have produced, and we've also written a couple of blog posts about Instagram. And so those links are being pasted in below as well. And finally, blogging. Now, blogging to most people, too hard, not doing it, boring, old school, whatever you want to think about it. Blogging can be very, very effective in marketing a dental practice with social media. So don't discount the importance of it. It doesn't mean that you're blogging about dental stuff all the time. We have practices that write great, interesting blog posts, such as what's your favorite movie? What's the best book you read this summer, or whatever. When you learn how to write short stuff, you don't have to write a novel. You write short stuff and publish it in the right places. It can be super effective. And I think that's why I've elevated it from a could to a should. I think it's something that when a practice is doing the basics well, it's good to consider blogging. At my social practice, we help our clients be successful at that because it can be a little overwhelming, but we make it super easy. And if you have any more questions about blogging or whatever, get a hold of us and let us kind of show you some of the things we do to help. Here's an example of a doctor who wrote about how her Thanksgiving dinner almost flopped. I mean, it can be about personal stuff. You want to mix in some dental stuff about your profession. It isn't that you can never talk about dentistry, but mix in a lot of personal stuff. And it can become actually really fun for you personally. I have lots of practices, lots of doctors who haven't wanted to start a blog, and then when they do, it actually becomes a big deal for them and becomes really personal, and they enjoy it. Lots of doctors kind of use a blog to sort of promote their own brand, their own personal brand, in addition to their practice brand. And there's some really good examples of ways to do that as well. And we can help you with that if you have questions about it. Setting up a smart-looking, easy-to-use blog is very simple and very quick today using tools like WordPress. So I think it's definitely a should. All right, so the three shoulds: Instagram, LinkedIn, and blogging. Let's talk about three coulds very quickly. The three that I've chosen, number one is Twitter. Now, let me just kind of give you a brief history about Twitter. I was one of the first, well, I wasn't one of the first. I was one of the very early guys on Twitter. In fact, it's been, you can see down there, it was 9 years ago, September of 2008, when I opened my personal Twitter page. And it's been a great journey. I've learned so much from Twitter over the years. And in many ways, it's helped build my own career. And so, but what you have to remember about Twitter, at least in my opinion, there are personal pages and then there are business pages. And I think the best way to use Twitter, if you're a dental practice, is you've got to have a connection between a person, a human being, and the practice. You can see in this image that at My Social Practice, we kind of tie my personal brand a little bit into that practice brand on Twitter. I think that when Twitter is only used as a company, it doesn't do very well. In fact, I don't know if I've ever seen it work well. So if your practice doing really well with Twitter, let me know, because I want to see some good case studies. But honestly, I think unless you have a team member or unless the doctor is really enjoys Twitter personally and is willing to kind of co-op the business page with their personal page, I don't think Twitter is very effective. So I'd say for most practices, Twitter is not a good tool to use. But there are exceptions. So keep that in mind. And in fact, just by way of admission, over the last year or two, I've gotten so involved in doing other things that the business page for Twitter, or My Social Practice page, has been managed by a lot of other folks on our team. And I've noticed that the effectiveness of the page has gone down quite a bit in the last couple of years. This is not a slam on our team. They do a great job. But because I'm not personally involved there, it doesn't seem to have as much interest to those people that follow our business page. So that's my 2 cents about Twitter. I have written a number of posts, though, and the link is below. I wrote a series of 5 blog posts about using Twitter in a dental practice. So if you're interested in learning more, the links are below. The number 2 could out of 3, I listed as Pinterest. People spend a lot of time on Pinterest. Pinterest is a big deal. And we've written an ebook, and the link is below, 10 pinboard ideas for Pinterest for dental practices. I think Pinterest can be pretty darn effective in reaching people, your target audience, and in engaging with your patients. But you have to think about Pinterest in a different way if you're a dental practice. And this ebook will really help you do that. So I encourage you, if you're considering, like, what could we do on Pinterest, read this ebook and see if it'd be a good fit for your practice. And finally, Snapchat. We're not going to talk about Snapchat today, but you know how many folks are on Snapchat. And it's mostly a younger crowd, as you know, but keep in mind that the younger crowd is connected to a lot of other people. And as they're up and coming, there's a lot of activity on Snapchat. And we'll put a couple links in the notes below to some practices and some articles about Snapchat that would be helpful for you if you're considering that tool. All right, so I know you're willing, and I know that time is always an issue. So I want to talk to you real quick about what I believe is the secret to making your social media marketing effectiveness really, 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 really simple. You may have noticed on this graphic that I've used a few times, there's a question mark down there. There's one thing missing. And in a minute, I'm going to show you what that is, because I know it's not what you're expecting should be in that slot. But in order to set that up, to tell you about that, I need to kind of tell you just a little bit of a story. I'm in the process of writing a book for My Social Practice. And as part of that book, we've narrowed down what we know is really the 3 strategies that are most important in the way you think about social media marketing in a dental practice. And they are, number 1, generating what we call share-worthy content and doing it consistently from your practice. So your practice needs to generate a certain amount of content. In addition to that, number 2, you have to encourage and enable your patients to do the same thing. You're publishing content, and your patients are helping you by publishing some content. And then you just need to understand the pay-to-play model. We have a great ebook about that you can download. It's all about understanding paid social, and it's written in a very simple way and to really help you understand this whole new pay-to-play model. But we talk about this all the time here at My Social Practice, and we say, if a practice is not going to do anything else, like they don't have time, they don't have interest, whatever the case is, if they'll just do 2 things: publish something each day. Remember, good, better, best. If you can't publish something that's best, publish something that's good. But publish something each day and boost it. Pay for it. learn how to use Facebook, for example, pay to play model, to get reach with that content. So you publish something good each day, and in many cases you boost that. In other words, you put a couple of dollars with it and try to get it to be pushed out. The second thing you do is just get a patient to publish something, whether it's a review or a photo or whatever. And that's all you got to do. I know it's simple. It's not easy always, but it is really simple. Publish something and get a patient to publish something. If you do that each day, that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. Just one little tiny thing. And if you can't do it each day, do it every other day, or do it once a week until you get in the habit. You do it once a week, and then next week, maybe do it twice. For a few weeks, you see if you can do it twice. Do it on Tuesday and Thursday or whatever. But getting it down to this simple thing. Don't feel overwhelmed by the millions of things you could do. Just say, we're going to publish something today, and we're going to get a patient to publish something today. That's it. And we're going to spend a couple bucks to boost the content that we publish. That is the simple secret. Now, I mentioned it's simple, but it's not always easy. So one of the things I want to show you is this little, down there where the question mark is, it's this last must. And I included it with the musts because I think it's one of the most important things. And I can almost guarantee you nobody in the audience knows what it's going to be. And here's what it is. The number one thing, the number one tool in social media marketing is, yes, it's your appointment schedule. Now, I know you're saying, Jack, you are insane. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not a social media tool. Our appointment schedule? What are you talking about? Let me explain. You know your patients, and you have this data that is at your fingertips every single day, and you don't think about it as being a marketing tool, but it's probably the most valuable marketing tool that you have. So here's my recommendation. In your effort to publish something yourself and get a patient to publish something, each day, or preferably each day, but if you can't handle it each day, once a week, twice a week, whatever you can do, but most practices can do this each day. Look at the schedule in the morning and identify one patient. So in this case, Anne's coming in for recare at 9:30 this morning. We identified Anne because she's been a patient with us for a long, long time. She loves the practice. She values what we do. And she's good friends with our hygienist, Susan, or whatever. So we've identified her in a very strategic way. And we've trained Susan to say to Anne while she's in the practice, you know, Anne, you and your beautiful family have been our friends and our patients for many years. And we find that we get more patients just like you when a patient like you publishes a photo from here inside the practice, or maybe writes us a review. Would you consider doing that today for us? Those conversations can be very easy when there's a relationship there, when you pick the right patient and the right team member and you say it in the right way. And you don't have to say it to everybody that comes in that day. You don't have to say it 40 times. You say it once. And maybe you identify maybe a backup patient in the afternoon that's coming in. So if you know that Stefan is one of those guys who's on social media all the time, loves your practice, he's a good friend, whatever, identify a couple of people in case Anne says, you know, I don't know if I want you today. I'm in a hurry. I got to go shopping, whatever she says. You've got kind of a backup there. But I think by being very, very specific, you take a lot of stress out of publishing social media content. So once that conversation has taken place, encourage the patient to publish in some way, whether they take a selfie or you take a photo together or whatever you do, and have the patient tag the practice and publish that photo on his or her personal social media account. It's not hard to do when there's a relationship there and when you're not trying to do it to everybody all the time. In conclusion, I want to tell you one other quick thing. And I want to do something that I don't usually do in a webinar. First of all, Dr. Chris Bowman is a friend of mine, and he said something interesting in a forum the other day, and I asked him if I could use this quote. He said, One thing I've learned about companies that serve dentists is that most of them, actually almost all of them, are much better at marketing to dentists than they are marketing for dentists. Now, for years now, for 8 years or whatever, I've tried to be really careful about not about educating. I'm a kind of an educator at heart. And so I love to lecture and teach about social media marketing for dental practices. And I rarely talk about our product, but I'm going to run the risk today of talking the last few minutes about a couple of things that we're doing, because I know it makes it easier to accomplish what I've just gone through. Now, if you don't want to hear this part, then thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. And I'm totally fine if you don't watch these last couple of minutes. It's not very long, but I do want to talk about our product for a minute, because those practices that use our product in the way that I'm going to show you are really successful at doing what I just went through. Now, there's lots of ways you can do that, and you don't have to be our client to be effective, but we help practices become super effective. So let me show you real quick. When I mentioned to our team that I was going to take this little zag when I usually zig when I do webinars, a couple of folks on the team said, well, Jack, you're going to come off as like a used car salesman. You're going to come off as this guy if you talk this way, because you don't normally really like promote our products when you give a lecture. And when I pulled up the deck, and by the way, you guys over in the design department, you've got heck to pay for doing that, what you just did, and chopping my head off and putting it on that guy. So running the risk of being thought of as a used car salesman, let me take a minute and tell you this, because I think it's helpful. I honestly do. And I only tell you because I really believe it works. I know it works. I see it work all the time. I mentioned that it can be so simple. This can be really, really simple. And that is generate something and encourage a patient to generate something. And then you're done for the day. The idea can be thought of in terms of push versus pull. And I know some of you have heard me talk about this concept before. Pushing out content is what you, the practice, publishes. And then encouraging patients to publish something is this pull strategy. And together, when you push and you pull together, it becomes kind of this 1-2 punch that becomes super effective. So let me show you how my social practice helps our clients do that. Our service is divided into kind of 4 components. The first 2, our publisher and our printed materials, are designed to help the practice push out and publish great content in that good, better, best sort of framework. And our clients use certain tools to do that. The other 2 services that we provide are designed to help patients publish content. Because remember, those are the 2 things you do. You publish, get a patient to publish. And those 2 things work together. And that's why our services are designed to do that. The 2 services from both sides of this equation that are kind of merged together into our software platform is our publishing tool that includes our photo booth app. Many of you probably know how our publisher tool works. It's the most sophisticated tool in the world when it comes to publishing great dental content. Much of it is furnished by our library that we've been building for years and years and years with dental-specific content. It allows you an easy way to publish to many places in a very, very little amount of time and to do it very effectively. So it's the way when you only have 5 minutes and you need to do something great to be able to do something great in a very short amount of time. It's accompanied by or supported by a daily email that brings trending topics to you and things that you can do when you have an extra 5 or 10 minutes. So you could pick something in 5 minutes, but if you have 10, you can print something that comes in the daily email, print it from your printer, from the email to your printer in your office, and maybe do a quick little contest. It's these kinds of ideas that are published through our publishing platform that make practices super effective in a short amount of time at publishing something each day. You can schedule, there's a whole bunch of details I'm not going to go into right now that we can talk later about if you want. And we got the people to make sure you're successful. We have the most awesome team of people that you could ever imagine that'll make sure that you are very successful in using that publishing tool. So the publisher is the way that you generate content, and it's coupled with our photo booth app, which is part of the same platform or the same publishing app. The photo booth app is designed to get patients to take photos in the practice, to customize and have fun with those photos, send them to their own cell phone, and then publish those photos on their own personal social media platform. Because remember what I talked about. You publish something, you encourage a patient to publish something. The 1-2 punch that's most effective. This is how it works. You use our app. You can use whatever hardware you want. We provide some hardware for all of our clients, but you can use whatever hardware you want to use. The iPad goes into the hardware. It sits in your practice in a place where it draws attention to itself. When patients see it, they're free to come up and start taking photos. That could be with a team member, with the doctor, or just on their own. It's always working. So when you're really busy, here's something that the patients are doing to help you market on their own. So if they do it with a doctor, that's great, whatever. Take some photos. Many times the stickers and some of the props are tied to the campaign that we're doing with our clients that month. Once they've taken the photos, have a little fun with stickers and so forth, they then send that photo to their own cell phone. So this is being created by the patient and sent to themselves. They don't have to log into anything. They simply send the photo to their cell phone. And then it's all linked to your practice's stuff, and they publish it on their personal page. The neat thing about this too is obviously there's no consent needed, no HIPAA consent needed, because the patient is publishing their own photograph. And then afterwards, the practice can share that on their own pages, but it's being published originally by the patient. So that software helps you push something out and helps you encourage patients to publish something as well. And then if you want to add the campaigns, the monthly campaigns, that's separate. That's kind of the thing you can opt into or not opt into. And our reviews product helps also get patients to publish from within the practice. And you can add that as a service as well. So that's why we built My Social Practice the way that we built it, because it accomplishes what I just told you is the most effective way to do social media marketing. So thank you for letting me kind of talk about it. I don't often do that, as I mentioned, but in context of this particular webinar, where we're trying to optimize your time and prioritize your time, no one can help you do that better than we can. So thank you for letting me be a used car salesman today. Last thing, a few years ago, we had this harebrained idea, and we thought, what if there was a conference, and the only thing that happened at the conference, it was only about one thing: dental digital marketing. That's it. Like nothing else. It's not about clinical. It's not about anything except how to grow a dental practice using digital tools, not just social media, but all digital tools, whether it's PPC or your website or social media or whatever. So we thought, well, let's try it. Well, we did it the first time in Dallas, and a couple people showed up, not very many. We did it a second time in Dallas, and a couple hundred people showed up. And then last year it's actually this year, 2017, back in April, we did the third one, and it sold out, and a lot of people came, and it was an amazing experience. So I just want to let you know, we're doing it next year again. It's the 4th annual Dental Digital Marketing Conference being held at the Red Rock Hotel, the same place we held it last year in Las Vegas. It's April 27th and 28th. And if you think you want to really immerse yourself in knowing how to grow your practice using digital marketing, it's 2 days of really great information. We work really hard for a couple days, and we play really hard in Las Vegas. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to dentalmarketingconference.com, dentalmarketingconference.com, and see if it's a good fit for you. If you have questions, let me know. So in conclusion, musts, shoulds, coulds, You guys can do it. Do it in baby steps. No more guilt. No more feeling overwhelmed. No more stress. And download the ebook using the link below that we published today that has a lot to do with what we just talked about. And I'll look forward to seeing all of you in our next webinar. Thanks.